Why we legit?
So it is live.
Good evening, everyone. My name is...
Wait for it.
Are we live yet?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Diana Music, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Community Services, and I thank you for being with us this evening on a very important topic to student safety, marijuana, the blunt truth, being co-presented by RCAD and Candle. I'd like to introduce our school social worker, Mrs. Norma Canals, who's with us this evening and organized the presentation for you this evening, and she'll introduce our guest speakers tonight.
Hi, good evening. I'm Norma Canals. I'm the school social worker at the high school. Welcome. I hope that you find this evening's presentation informative. I want to introduce my two speakers are a great resource in Rockland community. They have been working in Rockland, assisting families, children for many, many years. RCAD, Miss Kayla Kapakungan, I have been working with her directly with students, with families. She's a person that if you call, she's right there to answer any questions that you have. You'll hear more about her in her introduction. Ms. Brooke Fisher from Candle, another great local resource in Rockland County. I look forward to hearing this presentation, and I encourage you, if you have any questions, to reach out to them. And I encourage you to really pay attention to what's going to be offered this evening. Thank you, and enjoy the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brooke Fisher, and I'm from Candle. So I actually started Candle around maybe February. So I've been there for a short time, but I've definitely learned a lot since being with them. I'm a prevention educator with them, so I'm working with families, students, and we also do these awesome trainings with you all.
My name is Kayla Kapakungan. I'm the Information and Referral Specialist for RCAD, and I go out in the community do presentations such as this, and I also assist people with getting connected to services in the community such as treatment, doing services like Teen Intervene, and many, many more. So you can always reach out to me, and I'll do the best that I can to assist you.
So tonight we'll be presenting to you Marijuana Today, the Blunt Truth. So marijuana, as you may know, it has many, many different nicknames. Pot, weed, cannabis, to some. But that's pretty much the generic term for it. And as you see, we spell it with the H. That's because the marijuana tax law that was passed many years ago actually spells it that way. So we kind of want to keep it in correlation with that.
So you'll also see it spelled with a J from time to time. A lot of times that's actually related to the stigmatizing aspect of drugs and buying it on the street, along with prosecuting them because it's being used illegally. But the bottom line is that even though it can be spelled many different ways, we're still talking about the same substance today.
So marijuana is known to have two main strands. We have the cannabis indica and the cannabis sativa. But nowadays, because a lot of people may be almost marketing or creating their own. There are a lot more hybrids out nowadays, so you're not going to find the traditional cannabis sativa or indica. And then also, marijuana has two main cannabinoids found in it. There's the THC and the CBD. THC is the tetrahydrocannabinoid, tongue twister, and that is the main psychoactive component in the marijuana. So that will give you that quote-unquote high feeling, as opposed to the CBD, which is non-psychoactive cannabinoid, and that is said to promote kind of like calmness or helps with patients who may have trouble sleeping or stuff like that.
Also, like you'll see like many different creams that are out for CBD right now, or cosmetic products like for your hair, lotions, and stuff like that as well. CBD gummies. So it's being promoted in many different ways for helping with pain, helping with sleep. So stay tuned. We're gonna dive in more. Okay. Okay, so CBD versus THC, obviously there is a difference, right? So I use this slide mainly to tell people about what's been going on with the military. So we've had some incidences where military were using CBD, and as a result, when they went to go test, they ended up testing positive for THC, and they were like, whoa, what's going on? I did not sign up for that. I only got CBD to help me with my aches, this, that, and the third. And what we ended up learning at a conference a couple of years ago at CAPA was that they're trying to find out if CBD, when it's metabolized in the body, if it can be converted to THC, or was it just a simple cross-contamination? We just don't know enough, and as you're going to see as we go through the presentation, that this is such a vast topic, it's impossible to cover it all. But this is just something to be mindful of, that you can have a conversation with your kids, especially if they want to go into the military, go into positions like becoming a doctor or nurse, flying airplanes, where you are going to have to submit to testing to make sure that the people who you are in charge of, whether it be on the operating table or in mass transit, that you're not putting them at risk because you're using this mind-altering, mood-altering drug.
And great point, Kayla. Say your child right now wants to start looking into getting a job and getting their working papers from their guidance counselor. That's something else to keep in mind, just in case they, in case they do use CBD, and it might, in case, somewhat get converted or
it's cross-contaminated. So we put a whole bunch of images in here. Please don't feel overwhelmed. That's one thing that I don't want you to feel. There are a lot of images on here, but there's so many more things out there. This is just so that you can start to train your eye to notice things that you otherwise would not pay attention to, okay? I encourage you to look things up that you're suspicious about. Go online, Google it, look up what it means. What is this catchphrase that my child keeps saying? All those things are going to come into play for you to find out if your child may be using substances. So this is an image, all right? This is J-Pods. This is used in Juul, okay? And we have another one over here, Cushy Gold, all right? It can go on for days. So you'll see over here, this has indica. This is a hybrid, sativa. They have all the different strains available, and they tell you the different milligrams that are available as well. And they name them with things such as wedding cake, lemon pie, okay, holy grail, Skywalker. All these different names that they're choosing are communicating trendy things to your kid, or they are communicating something like, oh, lemon pie. Well, I like lemon pie. That's really tasty. Let me try it. All right, so just realize that the marketing is very intentional, and they are trying to make it look as if it's very harmless, so that your child will be more easily duped by it.
So marijuana has been around for longer than we think. So it has been around since the 1800s and the 1900s. And in 1906, the Food and Drug Act actually required that it be labeled if in any over-the-counter medication. And then in the 1930s, it was used to begin being used recreationally with in the U.S. by immigrants fleeing from the Mexican Revolution, which coining the term marijuana with the H. And then that's how it became popularized. The use was primarily smoked with the flower, the stem, and the leaves, which we know obviously is very different from the slew of things that you may be seeing now today. And then by 1931, it was actually outlawed in 29 states. And in 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was heavily made it illegal for any recreational or medicinal use. And then all the way now, so in 2014, Colorado was actually the first state in the United States who became the first state to legalize it as a recreational use. And then as of 2021, it is legal for medicinal purposes in some form in around 20 different states.
So here's some notable history, and this actually came from the book Reefer Sanity, and I just wanted to pull this little segment out because I thought it was so important. And I'm going to read it and then explain why. Okay, so in the 1970s, polls showed soaring approval for legalization as the baby boomers entered adulthood and government trust hit an all-time low. Marijuana was a sharp divider of the old and new generation and served as a symbol of freedom and self-expression. Doesn't sound like things change, right? Here we go, keep it going. Okay, in a few years, however, things changed dramatically. By 1982, support for legalization fell sharply. New parents, many of whom tried marijuana as adolescents, were uneasy about marijuana use among their own children. A parent movement emerged, raising awareness about drug use. Okay, so why did I bring this up? This is showing the development of the brain. Okay, our brains are developing until our mid-20s, so about age 25. So we have really awesome students who have their opinions, who want to fight for their rights, and they also want to go out there and be champions for change, right? So they like to be part of movements. So when it comes down to this, we see this, they're like, listen, there's nothing wrong with it, let me use it, I'm not doing anybody any harm. So as they're growing, their brain is fully maturing, they start to shift, because the prefrontal cortex part of their brain for judgment and decision making is developed now. And they're starting to have their own kids. And they're starting to realize, wait a minute, I wouldn't want my child involved in this. So in a very short period of time, this is a spirit of, what, about 12 years or less, we see how the brain develops and how things shift as a result of it. All right? So that's just something to consider.
So now we want to actually bring a point of what marijuana was viewed as back in the day. So now think about yourselves growing up, right? How did you view marijuana? How was marijuana viewed, right? So usually marijuana was viewed by dried out flower, stem, or leaves, and usually smoked out of joints, maybe blunts, right? There was no such thing really as paraphernalia yet, or vapes, or other devices that you can see nowadays. So here are just some movies that actually kind of show, shed some light on marijuana from back in the day. So this is just a picture of joints and blunts, and again, there's lots of pictures in here, so please don't get overwhelmed. We just want to make you aware of all the things that were out there and that are out there now.
Okay, so if you look here, this is just showing how the THC versus the CBD levels have changed from the 1960s to 2021. The non-psychoactive component, which is the CBD, has remained relatively stable. And this is important to note because when a person smokes marijuana, the CBD can actually take away from the high. So they have been intentionally keeping the breeding levels for the CBD at a low and increasing the THC to have a higher high, okay? So as you can see, the THC has been increasing over the years, and we're gonna see a little bit more about that in a second.
So just again to point out, back in the day, so in the 1990s, THC was at maybe 4%, and then since 2018, it's risen to almost 18%, and you'll see even more or higher levels now.
So this is the slide I wanted to really touch on. So back in 1965, before even I was born or my mother was born, okay, THC levels were at 3%, okay? Over the years, because of the way they're growing marijuana and because of the cross strains and the way concentrates have come out, which we're gonna explain a little bit more in a little bit about that, it now can go up to 99% THC, okay? So this is a completely different drug from what we are growing up with, our kids are growing up with, our parents, grandparents, because we don't have the research on what this 99% THC can do. We don't know what 30, 40, and 50% can do. So we're in a rush to legalize marijuana, and we don't know the full consequences of what legalizing is going to do. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's here. But having those frank conversations with your kids and giving them the opportunity to express what they think and talking it out will be important. And bringing this home and talking about it with them will be important.
And like Kayla just pointed out, a lot has changed in just 2 generations.
So this is a huge DEA file, actually, Department of Justice, yeah, the DEA was part of this too. And they're showing the classifications of marijuana along with other drugs. And you'll see over here that it is considered a substance 1 drug, okay? So what does that mean? Well, for us, it is still illegal on a federal level. On a state level, it's currently in the process of being legalized. But the one thing that I wanted to point out here is when you look at it, it says dependence physically unknown, psychologically moderate, tolerance, yes you can have it, duration 2 to 4 hours. And then it breaks down the possible effects and effects of overdose and withdrawal symptoms. And it's a little blurry, so I can't read it. Hopefully you can see it on the screen. But I just thought it was important to note how they don't really know some of this information, and the possibility of psychological dependence is moderate.
And right now they're averaging 2 to 4 hours, but that's depending on methods, right? So if someone inhales THC nowadays, there might be an immediate effect, which then it might depending on the amount of use, it may kind of slowly
Taper off.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And then if you ingest it, that's when there's a slower delay of onset.
Real quick before you change the slide. That's an excellent point. And I just wanted to show you guys that the marijuana here, they're only talking about smoked and oral. They didn't even catch up to edibles yet.
So this actually comes from the Pride survey from 2020 for Rockland County. And we notice as the perception of harm decreases, the teen use actually increases. So marijuana being legalized for medical use, for recreational use in other states adds to the perception of it being harmless, right? So the states that already legalized it, we could see that the perception of harm has actually, the perception of harm has decreased from it. So this is just a visual of the last slide. The green is of middle school students in the county, and then the blue is of high school students in the county. So as they grow from middle school to high school, also their perception of risk actually decreases as well. And this goes back to the states that have already legalized marijuana. So there are trends that are being noticed in Alaska and Hawaii. Both Alaska and Hawaii legalized it, and at the point of when they legalized it, we noticed, oh, I'm sorry, I take it back. So, sorry.
Okay, so marijuana use among teens was on a steady decline in both states, okay? But as you can see here, both states are represented. We have Alaska and Hawaii, and they're both on a downward trend, okay? Once we reach 2015, you can note the distinction between the two. Hawaii, which legalized in 2015, has since increased as a result of the legalization, whereas Hawaii maintained a downward trend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, again, in those legalized states, we're seeing an increase. And so this is from the National Survey on Drug Use from 2020, and Health found a double-digit increase in past year marijuana use amongst 12 to 17-year-olds in several legal states, which include California, Nevada, and Oregon.
So this begins how the talk of how marijuana is still being used. So marijuana can still be used in joints and blunts. It could be smoked that way, or any other paraphernalia like a hookah. And we've also noted that in between 2017 and 2019, there is actually an increase on students in the 8th, 10th, and 12th grades smoking THC or vaping it. And again, something that Kayla had mentioned earlier, this is intentional. The packaging is trying to get and target the youth to let it seem more desirable.
Okay. This really irritated me. Because there are people that, they're looking for new ways to get high. I will never look at Takis the same. People actually put weed in the Takis and create blunts out of them. I'm not saying that if you're a kid that likes Takis and all that, that's what they're doing. Please do not assume that. And with this information, you have to look for patterns, okay? So don't assume, why do you always eat Takis? Are you smoking? Don't do that. But if you do happen to see, say, an end of a Taki with something burnt at the end laying around, and you're like, what is this? Why do I keep finding this? That may be something to look into. But just so you know, this is actually happening. And you can find this on YouTube.
I want to stop you there. You actually told me something super interesting about some component in the ingredients in Takis that when smoked or burnt, it actually creates...
Yeah, so a lot of stuff, they use this chemical called diacetyl, which is responsible for popcorn lung if you inhale it. So, and it gives that buttery flavoring on a lot of stuff, and they actually used to use it in microwave popcorn. They have since stopped. But if diacetyl is in this bag, and I couldn't pull up the ingredients to read it closely, I need to actually go to the store for that. The kids' lungs can be put at great risk for developing popcorn lung, which is an issue where you're not able to breathe properly and use your lungs effectively.
So nowadays, going back to the hybrids being created, THC concentrates are also being created. So these concentrates are at an extremely high level of THC, can be found to almost 99%. And they can look anywhere from like a honeycomb to an actual oil or butter. The process of this is called dabbing when being ingested or smoked of some sort. And when these extracts are actually delivered to the body in large amounts, our bodies are not capable of taking in that level of THC. So we actually can get really sick from it.
So just note some of the different names here. Crumble, what's the other one? Frozen, the shatter one. These, if you hear these names in conversation, you might want to look into it more. Okay, so I'm saying this so that you can listen to the language. And other slides are coming up on that as well.
Yeah, and to go into that, other terms you may want to look for is za or zaza, sife.
Okay, bubble hash, sugar wax. Okay, so this is just a continuation of the last slide of things to look out for. Okay? So people are taking joints up a notch. So these are other forms of joints where now you see they put some of the high concentration THC on the top. So this is actually what the butter just drizzled along the top so that they can not only get the regular flower part, but the content on top as well. These are what is used in order to help convert those other pictures that we were just looking at. Can you go back a couple of slides?
Absolutely, tell me
Okay.
what.
The one with all the pictures. Yeah, one more. So they have to convert these things into a wax form that can be put into a vape pen, and they use these to help them do it. Okay? So if you start seeing things that have propylene glycol in them, that's a big red flag. Why does your child need propylene glycol in droppers? Okay? So just keep that in that grade.
Also, I want to point out this picture to the right. We can associate the word marijuana with 420. there's actually been a day that might have been added to it, 710, which is upside down oil. So because there are new products coming out, the industry felt like they needed to add a day to it. So just be aware of that as well.
Absolutely. Okay, more concentrate. So what I was telling you about converting it using those liquids, it can start to look like this. Notice they're coming really in many different colors. All right. Now I also want to say this. It's very tempting to go and look at stuff and then try and put your nose to it. Never do that. Do not touch it without having gloves on. It would be best for you to seek help on how to figure out what it is, and you can do that by connecting with a local resource officer who can then connect you to a place like us or whoever, so that we can get a drug enforcement agent or officer to figure out what it is. That way you do not have to put your health at risk. And listen, I know that sounds really crazy, like you want me to call a cop into. It can be done where there's no consequences like that. We just want to find out what it is so that people can be safe.
So the next few slides are pictures of new products this industry has created to help conceal the product, the THC. So right here, I mean, it seems harmless, right? It's an inhaler, but it's actually a THC product. Pens that can actually write can be used at the other end to store THC. And this was actually found on a clothing site under their herbal or wellness section. They had CBD vapes. And then there's more pictures on the right. So just to be aware of what other things to look out for.
Okay. Yep, another marijuana inhaler. So this is what your traditional albuterol looks like. This is what a THC inhaler looks like. Okay. So know the difference between the two. And again, you would want to investigate to make sure that it is what it actually says, what the person actually says it is. Remember, these products are being made intentionally to deceive people. Another thing to consider, vitamin vapes. And then there's actually essential oil vapes as well. So one thing that you can have a conversation with your child is, they're like, what vitamin vapes? Okay, what were your lungs made to hold? Clearly air, right? Why would you want to inhale vitamins into your lungs? Why would you want to inhale essential oils into your lungs? That's not what it's designed for. They were designed for air only. So you really can see the intentionality to capitalize on being healthy, making sure that you can be calm, so that you can restore yourself, get energy. So they're really tapping into this industry in many different forms with intentionality in order to get as many people as they can.
And to keep on the topic of vapes, you know, since it is such a new product in the last few years, we are still doing a lot of research on it. But some things that they have noticed is that vapes actually inflame and irritate your esophagus, and then the rest of your respiratory system. And when it gets inflamed, it can relate to maybe the heart beating a little faster. So just to keep that in mind.
So this is a Juul. This is what Mark 10 looks like, and this is what the Pax Era looks like. These have evolved, okay? But still, these devices are on the market, and we use this so that you can look at what they look like. A lot of times they look like flash drives, which is why it can be really easily missed. But we are finding that the youth are moving away from these and moving into other devices at the moment, and they're coming up next. This is the Pax 3. This has been made so that it can be used to store whatever substance that they're using. It can be used for actually burning the flower for a regular marijuana, and it can be used for oils. Okay, this is an all-in-one. Not only does it take e-juice pods, but it takes oil pods and the concentrates. Canna pods. So you can use this for dual purposes. Oh, sorry, this is the Eris. The Eris, you can attach the mouthpiece to it, which holds the oil in this section, or you can use a pod like Juul on the other side and just use it from the mouthpiece. Okay? So again, it's available in, with cannabis along with regular vaping as well. So, and you can go back and forth between a cannabis pod and a nicotine pod. So some more disturbing things. I highly doubt these will be as visible. They can actually be very deceptive again. So these look like regular cuticle things that you use to take care of your nails. But when you see this combined with something like this, which is used for handling those concentrates along with these caps over here, if I need my hops in, you start having some alarms go off, okay? Because these look like little contact lens holders, right? But notice they're not together. They can look like little lip balms. And again, it's all designed so that you don't pick up on it. Then you have bombs, you have these big torches that can be used along with many other things. That's just a close-up view of a bomb.
And again, these are just more pictures of what the industry is coming out with to conceal the THC or weed, right? So this is a shirt with 710 oil. We have a regular brush with the handle is actually taken off and you can store THC in there. A cell phone case. We have a hat, the cap, you unzip or there's almost like a Velcro and you could just place it right in there, right? And then a canister and flip-flops.
Okay, so this is an amulet that actually looks like a watch. I don't know if the video is going to play. Is it possible to? Thank you. Just wanted to show you what this looks like. And note the way in which it is marketed. Look at this guy, he's wearing this gray suit, right? They're definitely trying to tap into a lot of the things that we saw happening with the tobacco industry, where you have like this nice manly man, or you have this really sexy girl, and what have you. So those same trends are coming into this because they're trying to sell it. It's not working?
1 second.
Okay. So as you can see, it looks like a regular watch. Okay, you can tell time on it, check the date, it's chargeable, rotating screen, right? And then boom, you can take off the top, refill it, and vape it. Okay? So if you see someone requesting this for a Christmas gift, you might want to double check that. Thank you. We don't need the rest of it. Uh-oh. Sorry about that.
Did I pass it?
Keep going. One more. Oh, there we go.
So THC can be have many methods of use. So right now we're showing the inhalation. It could be again joints, blunts, and then different types of paraphernalia, any type of vape device. And when inhaled, it goes straight to the air sacs in your lungs, and then it goes right to your brain instantaneously. That high, quote unquote. As opposed to the ingestion with any type of edible or any form of THC that is eaten, there is a slower onset of use. So sometimes in cases with edibles, someone might think, oh, okay, well, I don't feel anything, so maybe that's it. Maybe I should take more, right? So then people end up taking more and more, and then all of a sudden, hours later, they're, extremely, quote unquote, high and, feeling that THC in their bodies.
So just for a special note, it takes 1 to 2 hours in order for an edible to take effect in the body. And this is important because we're finding an increase in our ERs in Rockland County for people that are overdosing on edibles. I just want to clarify, an overdose does not mean necessarily that you died. It just means you have too much of something toxic in your body and you require medical attention. Okay, so we're seeing this poor dog. So we're seeing, again, that intentionality. So they're playing off of the things that kids like. So Sour Patch, right? We got Stoner Patch, okay? We got them playing off of Oreos, and we notice it says Oreos, and over here, Cookie Monster got some red bloodshot eyes, okay? This is what is going on in the field right now.
And to add on to that, products that are being manufactured like this, on the back they are regulating, for the most part, the amount of components or cannabinoids that are found in them, like the THC or the CBD. However, when someone may be crafting it maybe at home or something, that THC is not being regulated. So there might be actually a lot more THC than you would find in a product like this. And because it's so appealing to children, we're seeing a lot of it with children actually from ingesting it accidentally and because of the packaging. So again, oh sorry.
Nope.
So this goes back to what I just said. Some products you can be regulated, but others clearly are not. And this looks like a Chips Ahoy cookie to me. And I can never just have one cookie, unfortunately. So just beware.
So there's different ways that you can consume marijuana, all right? Listen, the edibles have gone crazy, smoking, vaping. So there's entire cookbooks that are centered around marijuana right now. Yeah, go ahead, let's keep going. Oh, here we go, there you go. Okay, so having those conversations, and like, listen, I also want to say this. If you're a parent that is using marijuana, all right, which does happen, be clear on where you're storing it. Make sure it's not easily accessible. Lock it somewhere up high, especially if you have small children. And as they get older, have that conversation with them so that they don't accidentally bring things that look like candy to school and then give them out to all their friends because they think it's regular candy. Don't say things such as, this is my medicine, and it looks like a gummy bear, because now your kids are going to be like, Mommy, I need my medicine, and it's Skittles. So being very clear and transparent with your kids to a degree in which they can understand it based on your age is important. Okay. Problems with edibles. Again, look at this. This looks like regular Captain Crunch, Fruit Pebbles, and what's that? What's the real name of that cereal? Crunch? Cinnamon Toast? Yeah, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Okay, they almost got it.
It's showing my age. I couldn't figure it out.
I'm older than you. Okay, so
Again, just more pictures.
All right. We can skip this one. I think okay, this is where we're gonna go. This is in our communities. They're in the city. This happens to be the one in the French Quarters down in New Orleans, but there are trucks like this are available in the city already. And basically, they're going around. They're putting cartoons on there that we're familiar with. All right, here's some Shaggy and some Scooby, and they're making it colorful. And they have lollipops and candy, and kids are like, "Oh, Mommy, I want a lollipop." No, baby, you don't want that. Okay, this is what's coming. It's available in drinks. Okay, so they're mixing alcoholic beverages along with THC right now. So now we have on the market both of them combined. So we have two mind-altering drugs combined in one packaging. They mix it with soda, lemonade, you name it. Okay, here's some other ones. Again, playing on the traditional candies. Okay. Same thing. Can you tell the difference between your regular O's versus a can of O's? I don't even remember what that's called. That's what we're calling it. Okay. They're endorsing celebrities in order to get it going. All right. There is a thing called purple drink. It can be associated with what's that word? Oh my gosh, it's just escaping me. there's two types of lean. That's basically what I'm saying. You have a purple drink which actually has opioids in it, and then you have weed lean, which is where they basically put THC inside of a drink and they drink it. Okay. So this is was something in the news. They were just showing how people were giving out things during Halloween that contain THC. You can look that up on YouTube. Okay, same thing. Here's the Halloween one. Again, it's available. This is an ad. Hopefully we can play it. What time is it? 42. Okay. Do you want to play the ad? The public service announcement? It's up to you.
Yeah, let's go
This
for
one.
it. Thank you so much, by the way.
It's so easy to do. You're rushing and leave something where you shouldn't. That's why in states where pot is legal, vets report increases in accidental pot ingestion. In Colorado, the number of dogs sickened by marijuana has quadrupled. Pets aren't the only ones at risk. Legalization will expose kids to a drug their developing brains can't handle. Poison Control reported 4,000 children were exposed in 2015. Pot edibles look just like regular snacks. Can you tell the difference? Can she?
Thank you. So that's just a public service announcement that came out, and we wanted to just bring that to your attention because, again, it's very important to be mindful of that. Yep. Okay. So these are some emerging companies, and some of them take on even an eco-friendly type of approach. There you go. Thank you. So again, you don't need to know every single company, but if you just happen to see something, Google it. So this is a craft beer company along with a marijuana company. Okay. So just look into it if you see something.
So really quick, how does THC affect the brain? So something like Kayla had mentioned before, our brain doesn't really stop developing around the age averaging 25 years old. And the first part of our brain to develop is our cerebellum, which is actually in the back of the brain, which controls our movement. Our brain develops counterclockwise, so our last part of our brain that actually develops is our prefrontal cortex and surrounding parts, which controls decision-making and any really executive functioning. So with the use of marijuana, depending on how much is being used, right, the white and gray matter volumes in the brain may actually not grow to their full capacity, which actually changes the size and shape of all your parts of the brain, which directly affects the functionality of how each part of the brain works. So THC interacts with the presynaptic for all your neurotransmitters. So this is in the system of our neurosystem called the endocannabinoid system. Because the THC affects the presynaptic receptor, it almost controls how much something is released. So for instance, THC is known to affect the levels of dopamine in the brain. So with that being said, if the more you use THC, the less your body's actually going to start producing the dopamine because your body's getting acquainted with the amounts of THC. So in retrospect, that would affect the level of dopamine being released over time. So this is just a picture of the different parts of the brain. And then underneath shows how each part functions and then how the THC affects it. Going back to dopamine, THC, especially nowadays because it has such high levels at almost 99%, with those hybrids being found. So dopamine is actually a naturally occurring chemical found in our bodies. And when, over time, the amount of use when you're using THC can create less dopamine being produced by the body, like I said. So, just generalizing, when there is little dopamine being produced in any person, some things that may occur can be depression, schizophrenia, or any psychosis. So some people may start feeling a lack of motivation, feeling more tired, moving and speaking at a slower rate, hallucinations, and then even insomnia, so a hard time sleeping and staying asleep. And then again, today's THC, our body's just not made out to take in that amount of THC. So sometimes it may cause delusions, hallucinations, fragmented, disordered thoughts, or paranoia.
And just to throw this out there, back when people were doing this in the 70s, this wasn't happening. So this is something that we think, oh, that's only for things like LSD or whatever. Those are like the way out there drugs. Now it's happening with marijuana.
And the research is still coming about because the THC levels have just recently blown up. So, but in some cases, because THC directly affects the brain, these are some things that may occur. Oh, goodness. All right.
It's really giving you a hard time.
Click it this way, point it
Okay.
here.
Oh.
So I think this is a good summary slide,
Okay.
so we don't have to do the other ones. So THC works differently and affects the body differently for those different organs. Okay, so this is just showing you the organs and what happens. So this is the heart. It's the THC makes it its way through the bloodstream to the rest of the body, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier. And when this happens, your heart rate increases. So it can actually, sorry, I'm trying to step up a bit. It can actually put a person at risk later on for heart disease issues or heart attack or whatever, because they're stressing out their heart in an unnatural, unhealthy way.
And it's interesting too, because most people have this assumption that when you smoke marijuana, because it has that ability to slow down your body, that it will actually slow down your heart as well, but it's not the truth.
Yeah, we can keep going. Yep, stop that. Uh-oh. All right, here.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's not you, so let's see. So one thing to consider, there is secondhand smoke with marijuana, despite what people, I don't want to say that, they just don't realize it, okay? So if you are in a room with someone and they're inhaling it, that person's smoking with you too, even if they didn't put the worms in their mouth. And then there's a thing such as third-hand smoke, where even after the room clears out, those chemicals are still deposited in your environment and you keep breathing it.
And this also makes me want to talk about vaping again as well, because when we vape any device, it actually leaves an aerosol-like substance coating your lungs. So it's more damage again on top of the inflammation.
Another rare phenomenon that is happening is a thing called SCROMITING, where a person is smoking so much marijuana, they become addicted to it, and they end up showing up like clockwork in emergency rooms, vomiting and screaming at the same time. And the only way to treat it is for the person to just stop using it. And it's mostly associated with those high concentration THC. Okay, marijuana and pregnancy. This is interesting because the I can never pronounce that word, Surgeon General?
Yep.
Okay, I had to release a statement about this saying marijuana, let's go to the next one and I'll bring it all together. Okay, I am emphasizing the importance of protecting our nation from the health risks of marijuana use in adolescence and during pregnancy. Recent increase in access to marijuana and in its potency, along with the misperception of safety and marijuana, endangers our most precious resource, our nation's youth. Know the risks, take action, protect your future. Okay? So the reason why this had to be released is because pregnant women were using marijuana to deal with nausea, and I can understand why someone might do that because they think, all right, cancer patients do this, but you can actually harm the fetus because of the chemicals in the marijuana. Okay, we can keep going.
And then something really important to also discuss and touch upon is driving, and the effects of THC on driving. So driving while impaired by any substance obviously is super dangerous, not just marijuana. But when marijuana is used and someone does get behind the wheel, some effects that they may see are their slow reaction time, ability to make any good decision, impaired coordination, distort perception. So someone may not be able to, may have an abnormal distance between the car in front of them, and they may speed up and then slow down quickly, and then the process just continues. And then difficulty in problem solving. But we also know that sometimes that with using marijuana, it's not used alone, right? So it's usually accompanied with alcohol or any other substance. So when more than one substance is being used, there are higher, more dangerous effects and impairments.
Yeah, let's keep going because we're low on time. Okay, yeah, I think this is important. Is marijuana addictive? Absolutely. And we go into our schools to educate our youth because if we can have them delay the use of any substance as long as possible, it will cut down on the risk of becoming addicted. Okay. So you see here that 1 in 6 adolescents will become addicted from using marijuana.
Okay. So again, this comes back to the Pride survey from Rockland County in 2020. So as perception of disapproval decreases, teen marijuana use increases. So again, we can see this through the states that already have legalized marijuana. And again, just a quick chart, middle school being green and then the high school being blue. The other chart was parents' disapproval, and this is of friends' disapproval.
Okay. People are buying substances on Snapchat. This is really important. Okay, I hope this woke you up if I was boring you. So we put this up here because this is showing the apps that are used most frequently to purchase substances. Snapchat comes in at the highest. So these are some drugs and what they're associated are emojis and what drug they're associated with. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then if you have a Snapchat and you go and start typing in random drug names, marijuana, whatever, you will start to see it yourself. So check me, do it. Oh wow, that thing is really giving you a hard time.
I apologize.
It's just jumping on you. Okay, so again, same thing. I put this picture on here because we did a drug trends presentation and this popped up in one of the territories further north. But as you can see, it says 600 milligrams. But what they didn't tell the child that actually bought this and was using it was that each one, because there was only 6 in the container, contained 100 milligrams of THC. So that child was brought to the emergency room. Again, these are some common names that we just wanted you to know, okay? So cartridges, carts, water pipes, all these things are associated with the use of vaping, and you would want to tune your ear into that.
So again, something that we already covered, usually marijuana is not used alone, it is used with another substance. And then is THC use associated with other drug use? Yes, so usually you can see there is a pattern with other substance use when marijuana, or specifically the THC concentrates are used today. And then this is really important. We've actually been getting numbers from the Rockland County Police Department. who have confiscated drugs or substances in the area, and when they actually tested them, it was not the only thing they were getting. So marijuana can be laced with fentanyl. We have seen a few cases. I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm not sure if they're in Rockland yet, but there were some cases found in Connecticut.
There actually are.
Okay.
Yeah, I just attended a meeting recently. The Department of Health for Rockland has already confirmed that fentanyl-laced marijuana has already been in our area. Keep it good. It's good. Okay. We got a few more minutes, but I did want to just show you the way these companies are working. So there's a place called 420 Tours that you can check out. This is actually a live chat that I had with them, and you're gonna see like my desktop computer and everything. I'm pretty sure Oasis is probably like, what are you doing? Anyway, notice, hi, all right. Do you need any assistance with booking your cannabis experience or cannabis-friendly accommodations? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so pardon what I wrote. I was playing a part. Okay, so I go through, I keep having this conversation, right? I'm making up this false little narrative over here, okay? Kudos to them, they asked if I was over 21. Okay, great, when you're coming out. And then they start telling me about the packages. Our all-inclusive package includes round-trip 420 friendly airport transportation with a dispensary stop, a Friday and Saturday 2-night stay at your choice of any of our high-end downtown Denver hotels. Okay, we keep going. All of our inclusive packages include round trip, keep going. Okay. Keep going. I want to get to the good part. Well, I don't know if it's good, but. Okay, so I keep going, trying to get more information to see how they're doing. Okay. Do you got discounts? Yeah, okay. More discounts being offered. Let's keep going. All right. So our Cannabis and Beyond experience takes place every Saturday. They're giving me the time. Okay. And then the part that struck me is said, the next level experience begins with our visit to the Crystal Leaves Dispensary, where you'll be able to purchase exclusively discounted packages before we go to the International Church of Cannabis. I said, what? Church of Cannabis? What does that mean? Okay, let's keep going. The Church of Cannabis. It exists. This is the inside of their chapel. And the only thing you have to do is basically say that marijuana is a sacrament. So not only do they go after the marketing for with the different, health-wise, use this, use that, they have a church. Think about it. All right, so all this to say, there's a lot. Please don't be overwhelmed. Ask questions, do your research, and know that you have support from us and your school. Want to add anything?
Thank you for attending today and taking the time to take this experience with us. Like Kayla said, if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to RCAT or Candle. We're always around, and we really enjoy our job, so please reach out.
Oh, can I just say one last thing real quick? We did a presentation on marijuana for the youth at another school today, and we passed around these balls, and there's a bigger one, but I had 3 balls here. And we had them write down their questions that they have and write down their comments. And you have people that are artists that are drawing themselves high, but then they're asking questions. So the one last thing I just want to say is, if you don't educate your child and do your own research, someone else will do the job for you, and it may not be factual. Please take the time to do the research, to study it, and to ask questions and look it up, because it will help you to be able to answer these questions that your kid comes to us with.
Know their sources.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Brooke. You guys did a great job. We appreciate you. So Kayla and Brooke will probably be visiting our students in the spring to give a student-based presentation where they'll probably do this activity with the Pearl River High School students. Please, if you haven't taken the moment, take out your phones and screenshot this information, contact information for them. Of course, if you ever have any questions, you could reach me at the high school, 620-3806, or email me canalsn@pearlriver.org, and I can connect you with these lovely people that took time this evening to give this great presentation. And again, they will be speaking with the students at the high school in the spring to provide them with a student-based presentation. It will look very different from this,
Very
correct?
different. No
Very
ideas
different.
given.
They don't give any ideas, they just give education and information. Thank you so much, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you, stay safe. Thank you. So, how many people we have?